Welcome to Death Holler, the place of haunted hearts and haunted homes. We welcome you to Death Manor, the home that boasts the most ghosts. Come on in. We've been expecting you. Take a look around. You might see someone that you recognize. Do you hear those voices? That's just the Reverend Dr. Death and La Llareyna. They're so happy to see you. Sit back and relax. Make yourself at home. Your new home. And remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you enjoy the show.
But moving on to our main movie for the evening, Poltergeist, the 1982 spook show film directed by Tobe Hooper, ? We'll get into that later. Produced by Steven Spielberg, possibly the director. We'll get into that in a bit. Principal players,
Wait, hold on. Before we move on to principal players, did you know that Kathleen Kennedy was involved in this film?
I did not.
Really? I saw it and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. But it makes sense because Frank Marshall was also involved with the film. And that's her husband.
Oh my Lord. That
it's a bunch of nepotism.
At least this turned out well.
Yes.
We'll throw that out there.
Yes. Her older films did good. So
we got Heather O'Rourke playing Carol Ann, who is the inciting incidents and the daughter in the movie. Might not know this, but literally before she was hired for this, she played like one season of Happy Days where she played Fonzie's surrogate daughter through his girlfriend before they dumped the whole thing and had him dump her in the show, and then got rid of both the girlfriend and the daughter out of the whole.
It mimics real life. That's a real situation. Okay, I could totally see the Fonz doing that.
That seems like a horrible character development for the Fonz. The Fonz is supposed to be the guy that's carefree, not attached to anything.
And that's why he fucking let them go.
Yeah.
Well, when you literally jump a shark, I mean, Happy Days was a show that invented that phrase.
Oh, my God.
And Heather O'Rourke was also in Poltergeist 2 and in Poltergeist 3. Sadly, those were the only major credits to her name because we'll get into that later. She died at a very early age of 13 years old. Yeah. We have JoBeth Williams, who plays Diane Freeling, who is the cool mom in the movie.
She's not a regular mom. She's a cool mom.
She is a cool mom. She was smoking weed in the beginning with her husband. That was awesome.
She's actually really attractive in this movie, too. So
yes, she's a babe. Even in the shit pool that she was in.
Well, she had that classic hot 80s babe like vibe and feel and look.
Tall, skinny.
Exactly.
No, just like the feathered hair, like the carefree attitude. Yeah. She wasn't some stuck up. Like, if you look at her through the lens now, and you look at her compared to what women like that are like now, they're like insane now, and like she's more that carefree, classical like feel type look where she's not taking everything so too serious.
It's what moms had to learn to grow to be.
Yes.
Newer moms, like, and not so much be a cool mom, but like not be so fucking.
Yeah, tight butthole.
Everyone likes a tight butthole.
I mean, let's just take it one step further. I'm going to jump into the movie just for a split second here. There's a scene in the movie that I did not notice until I was rewatching this because, as a kid, you don't pick these things up. Where the construction guys that are coming in to dig the pool are being really creepy and hitting on their teenage daughter, like really bad.
Yeah, I caught that too.
And like the daughter's basically, she does that thing where she's basically like flipping them off. And then like JoBeth Williams as her mom is watching all this develop. And she doesn't step in. She doesn't call the guys out for being, like the misogynistic bastards they really are being.
Yeah.
She's just, when she sees her daughter flip the double bird, she's like, good on you.
Yeah,
daughter.
exactly.
Like,
she was all proud of her daughter.
Yeah, which is
that's how I would
to
be.
me, that's more of a realistic position. Like, let your kids figure it out.
Like, she's got this.
Yeah, she did. She's like, fuck off.
In her Catholic girl fucking uniform.
Yeah, but if you were to make that now, she would be a total Karen coming out there and yelling, "Oh my God!" Like this. But I think what they did was a way better approach.
Yeah.
It's like the mom was like, okay, she can figure it out.
I was appalled, and then I saw what the daughter did, and then I saw the mom like, oh, okay, they fucking got this shit. That girl's got it.
They didn't take it serious. Like, calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
Jo Beth was obviously in Poltergeist 2. One of the big movies she's known for is The Big Chill. A movie that I don't think a lot of people, think about, but like for some reason, like I watch this movie all the time whenever I was like at home sick, whenever I was in school, was the movie Dutch. Does anybody remember that with like Ed O'Neill?
Yes,
from,
it was awesome. the horrible dad.
It looks like did they remake this film?
What, Poltergeist?
Dutch.
I don't know, but that's a good Ed O'Neill movie.
What is it about?
So it's about a dad who hasn't really took the reins to be a good dad, and he's a busy businessman, and he
I think he might actually be a stepdad, and he's trying to work his way into the life of this kid or whatever, because he started dating the mom, if I remember right, and they're in love, or he's getting ready to propose to her.
I remember this.
He wants to get in with the kid.
I do remember.
I thought it was his kid in his.
No.
Okay.
No, that's what makes it even better, is because he's got this big long road trip that he's trying to, like take this snotty kid played by Ethan Embry, if I remember
and he
right,
is a snotty kid.
Can't Hardly Wait.
Yeah. Okay, I remember this film. Yes, I used to watch this a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you can make that movie nowadays. Because there's one point
you couldn't.
Yeah, there's one point he ties him to that hockey stick to carry him around.
Yes, it shows that's that's the movie poster, basically.
Yeah, the kid had a mouth on him, dude. I thought it was a hilarious movie.
Oh my God, yeah, I remember that.
And appropriate to the time of the year, if I believe right, I believe this is a Thanksgiving film. Maybe one of the few actual Thanksgiving movies.
See, I know it's a holiday movie. I don't know quite.
Yeah, I mean, there's snow gear and shit like that. So, I mean,
well, it's back east too. So
yeah,
you got to frame it in that area.
So anyway, she was in that movie, and I just thought that was interesting, because I was like, I love Dutch. That's a movie people don't talk about.
Oh my God, she looks like a total Karen in the film, though.
Oh, does she?
Total pull out, yeah, super short, like poofy hair. She looks older, even though she looks older, but not really, because. Well, I guess this movie Dutch came out like 9 years or 10 years after Poltergeist, so she got a little older, but she does not look the same.
Well, she wasn't a giant spring. Oh my God, she went downhill. Wow.
Yeah, she did.
Wow, that is a horrible look.
Okay, let's just remember her in Poltergeist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's be nostalgic about it.
Agreed. She was in Stir Crazy, who was Craig T. Nelson was also in that. We'll get into him in a second, but Stir Crazy is a pretty good movie. Pretty good comedy that they couldn't make now, because I'm sure that they would say that it's extremely racist for what it's got in it.
Have you seen that one?
Oh, with Richard Pryor in it. Richard Pryor probably went hard in the wind.
And Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
And Gene Wilder.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, like there's no way they were remaking any of those. Like. Even any Mel Brooks movies, I don't know how they would pull off remaking any of those. Like, you couldn't.
Oh, they couldn't at all. I don't even think they could remake the Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love that film.
One of Dave Chappelle's first big roles, man.
I'd be more worried about getting pissed on.
Oh, dude.
She and then just to throw it out to the horror fans, she was in another movie in 2016 called Within, which is a horror thriller that was listed on there. I don't know anything about that movie, but it's just one of the movies she's done recently. We have Craig T. Nelson, who plays Steve Freeling, who's the dad and the real estate salesman.
Coach is always a
obviously
badass.
Most known for Coach. If you're of a certain age, that's the show you know him from.
Yeah, he was badass in Coach. I love that show.
It was one of the better sitcoms on at that time, even as a kid.
They had enough. Yeah. I always watched it as a kid. I particularly didn't care for it.
It's about sports and a guy who runs a sports team.
Yes, I'm aware.
But the guys acted like guys. So if you're a young kid and you're hanging out with your buddies and you're about sports and you'd watch that, the show was more enjoyable because it was guys hazing each other all day long. That's all they did was just trash on each other.
Ah, okay.
And of course, everybody remembers probably most that character from that show, besides Craig T. Nelson, would have been Dauber, the big, idiot, blonde-haired idiot that was kind of his, assistant coach or something like that, who ended up going to be like the guy with Down syndrome in the stand or whatever that kept repeating MOON, that spells moon.
Dauber was a doof.
He played the part well, is all I can say.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hope the guy actually is smart in real life. So, Craig T. Nelson was in Poltergeist 2. He's Mr. Incredible in The Incredibles, which is the most recent thing.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, he sounds like him.
Well, now that you say that, I was like, okay, yeah, I see that now. I never even realized that.
And obviously, this makes his return appearance because he was in The Devil's Advocate, where he was playing. It's funny, he was playing a real estate salesman in this, but he plays a real estate developer in The Devil's Advocate. More of a Trump-like character.
He leveled up.
Yeah, even putting the grind
evil in the process.
He was also in a film that I am sure none of you guys have watched unless you watched it with me. Troop Beverly Hills, a true classic.
Oh God!
Oh, I've seen you watch that movie.
I love that movie.
Hate that movie.
Oh man.
We have Oliver Robbins, who plays Robbie Freeling. He's the son and the scaredy cat in the movie. Basically,
God, that kid was annoying as
running
fuck.
away or hiding under the covers.
I mean, he did almost get swallowed by a tree, to be fucking fair. That shit that will fuck a kid up.
Oh, but the fact that he has a goofy-ass, weird, psychopathic clown staring at him while he's sleeping.
That's true, yeah. That's some fucked up shit.
That probably traumatized the kid.
Here's what I don't understand. He has a cool mom that would have listened to him if he said, get this shit out of my room.
Yeah.
Craig T. Nelson didn't give a fuck about it if it was in there or not. Who was keeping the doll in the room to begin with?
Yeah, no one played with it.
Scared of it.
See, they should have framed the doll in some kind of like your grandma gave it to you. You have to keep it. You can't get rid of it. They should have gave a little context, because that's the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking the same thing. Why is this doll in their goddamn room if both the kids don't like it?
Well, I didn't get the feeling that the daughter was afraid of it.
Give it time, it would have grown on her.
Yeah, that's true.
But Jo Beth Williams, I don't even think the grandma thing would have held with her. She would have been like, honey, if you don't want this in your room, it's getting tossed out. Like
yeah.
she
Unless, okay, wait. But hear me out. Back in the 80s, for some reason, certain moms thought clowns were fucking adorable because Free-Free's mom put clowns all in the kids' rooms.
Because they're psychos.
And that's the thing is, like, so what if, like, I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe she likes clowns and put it in there. And if the son would have been like, Mom, this is terrifying. I don't like it. Oh, it's okay, honey. It's fine. You're just being scared of nothing. I could see her doing something like that. Like,
if you had any balls now when you're an adult, you turn around and buy the most psychotic looking clown and give it to your mom.
Oh, my God.
There you go. This better be in your house all the time, too, by the way.
I bought it for you with love.
Yes. Let me go and screw it into the wall so you can't rip it down.
So Oliver Robbins was in Poltergeist 2. A lot of the cast returned for that movie. Airplane 2.
What did
he was in?
Sorry to interrupt. Did the mom return for it too? For number 2?
Yeah, she was in that.
Okay.
The only character who didn't is one that we'll get into in a minute with Zelda daughter, but there's a terrible reason for why she didn't.
Okay.
Real life reason.
All right.
He was in Maximum Overdrive.
Awesome movie.
What is that movie? I feel like I recognize
Emilio
it.
Estevez.
What? I mean, like,
the movies now, if you watch it, it's horrible, but when you were a kid, it was awesome. It was about some meteorite came into Earth, and it was able something came out and it was able to take control over everything. So what the movie really falls apart is the fact when it takes over the machine gun in the Jeep and it's shooting everybody. It's like, okay, you're kind of losing.
It fell apart whenever it was taking control of the trucks in general.
Mechanically,
the premise because
it was shifting
analog.
It was shifting the trucks. So the idea, like nowadays, it would work big time if you redid Maximum Overdrive of things taking control of computer systems. You could pull it off because nowadays there's no longer shifters for the parking, Paul. Everything's electronic shift, so you could actually make that movie nowadays 100%.
All I know is that Maximum Overdrive, that green face.
Yes.
It reminded me of
truck.
Yeah, It reminded me of Goosebumps. I swear I've seen like in Goosebumps, maybe it was Horrorland or something. Kind of reminded me of that. There was an image.
Well, the thing that got me is he shot it with a rocket launcher at the end, and it didn't blow it up. It a flame happened. That was it. The whole front of that vehicle would have been blown apart, and that didn't happen.
Okay, well, 80s.
That bugged
90s.
me. I was like, that's weird. Like, cars explode and they get shot with one bullet, and this car gets hit with a rocket launcher, and some flames happen, and that's it.
The voice of Lisa Simpson was in that movie, too. Got to throw that out there. I mean, the
Maximum
actress
Overdrive?
who did the voice.
In Maximum Overdrive?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She plays like a newlywed in the movie, and she's screaming all the time and henpecking her newly, married husband. And you can just imagine Lisa, Simpson's voice.
Oh my God.
Yes, because her husband was trying to take that ring off that one person's hand, and he ended up getting killed. Yeah, I remember that. He was trying to get the ring for her. It was a big old rock.
Okay.
I think her husband's name's Curtis, because that's what you hear is Curtis. Curtis. That's all she says throughout the whole movie.
Oh God.
But you got to remember Maximum Overdrive. That was peak Stephen King on cocaine. So, I mean, that's what you get.
Yeah, but was he the director too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
He's just coked out, like, we're doing awesome. This is going exactly how I have envisioned.
Pretty much.
He's probably sitting there, and he's like, okay, we got Emilio. We got him in the, the gas station. What else can we have? Oh, we need a goblin face truck. Where can we get one of those motherfuckers at? Give me some more blow. That's probably, literally how it went.
Just like...
Let's go. Let's do it.
And Oliver, going back to that, was in a movie called Celebrity Crush, which is interesting because it is speaking of Stephen King, is a misery type movie, but with a horror fan who's obsessed with 80s horror films, and she captures the actual Oliver Robbins and basically tortures him.
Okay, but to be fair, in Misery, that writer was like, his films could have turned into movies, so his films. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. His books could have turned into films.
We understood what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's fine.
We were getting there.
We got to put in here Zelda Rubenstein, who plays Tangina Barons, I guess is how you say her first name. Tangina. She plays the psychic, and she's and the horrible planner in the movie. If it wasn't for her, they probably wouldn't have had the last part of the movie, but we'll get into that. She was in Poltergeist 2 and 3.
Oh my God.
She was in this really shitty movie that from the 80s called Teen Witch, which I think is like a musical type thing. She was in also a really good movie, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I love that movie. If you haven't seen it, it's like a documentary style, like what if Jason allowed people to film him as he was like building his mythos, basically, as he was right before he got ready to murder people.
Damn.
And then she was in 16 Candles. And then the last person on the list is Dominique Dunn, who played Dana Freeling. She's the oldest daughter, probably has the least screen time in the movie, and we'll get into that because I have no idea where she went or why. But the bad thing, and this is the reason she didn't do Poltergeist 2, is that she died just months after the release of Poltergeist 1. And this is where the curse starts in on this movie. There's it's one of the cursed films that everybody talks about. Dominique was dating this guy. She was 22 at the time, and he got really obsessed with her, and like he wouldn't leave her alone. She was actually I think on her property, like she was trying to get away from him. He choked her to the point that that he killed her. Like in the process of trying to get her to come back to him, because I think they broke up or something like that.
Yeah.
And so just literally months after the movie, this poor young actress dies due to her obsessed boyfriend, and that's the reason she has no other credits to her name.
I remember that. What else was I going to say? Okay, so she wasn't in part 2 because she died. Was she in part 3 as a poltergeist?
That would have been the best. She really haunts the
Too soon.
Well, Poltergeist 3 plays into the curse a little bit, and even the director says they should have probably, for reasons that happened, shouldn't have released that movie. So if she was, that would have only probably added to the problems with that movie.
Didn't the girl who played Carol Ann, didn't she die pretty young too?
She died at 13 as she was filming Poltergeist 3.
Oh.
I'll just get into that part of it. Just skip to the part of the curse on that. They were actually filming the movie. The studio did not like the ending of how things had played out. They had stopped production completely because, Heather O'Rourke had passed away, and, like everybody was distraught that it, was on set. And, and the director, especially because he'd grown really close to her, working with her during the movie. He mentions in the Cursed Films on Shudder, documentary about how she was actually, she joined him a lot, when he was directing, because she was interested in directing later in life. So she was wanting to kind of get in, into that, like she wanted to kind of learn from him. And so he became really close to her, and he actually, at her funeral, I believe he was like one of the people that did the eulogy and that sort of thing. But the studio came back to him and basically said, this ending doesn't work. We need you to film another scene, with Carol Ann to kind of wrap it up. And he's like, what are you fucking talking about? Our actress died. The movie's done. You get what you get. And they're like, we want a completed movie. You didn't finish it. Our money's on the line. Fucking do it.
Holy shit.
So he came back. Nobody wanted to do it, but they did. They had some girl that you only see in like part of the scene of the movie with her head like over her mom's shoulder in that movie, which it wasn't Jo Beth Williams in that. It was another actress. And so that's how they wrapped it up. But he says to this day that he wishes that he had enough of a backbone to tell them to go fuck themselves, because he said that was the one thing in his life that he really regrets, is that he gave in to them, because he said it was kind of like basically pissing on her memory to have to go back and do that scene.
Yeah.
After she had just literally passed away. And the weird thing about her death was it was this weird septic event. Like her body was just filled with bacteria from like this part of her colon that had like burst or whatever. She had like this birth defect whenever she was born, like part of her colon was like.
And you're talking about the young girl?
Yeah, because
the little girl.
It was diagnosed as Crohn's disease. She had Giardia.
She got Giardia from a well on the family's remote house. So she got Giardia, and then it basically ran roughshod on her. Like Giardia would destroy your lower intestine.
Yes, just like and that's why they diagnosed it as Crohn's, because can't you get like some kind of acute or chronic Crohn's? I might be saying it wrong, but I feel like there's where you can get rid of it.
Well, Giardia is weird because it goes in cycles. So, I think once you get it, it's hard to get rid of it. But
but you can.
But it goes in waves. It'll go away, and you think you're fine.
Yeah.
Then it comes back like a vengeance. But the problem is it reduces your ability to absorb nutrients. So it starts being a hindrance on your ability to recover.
Oh my God.
Well.
Congenital stenosis of the intestine causing septic shock is what her cause of death was listed as.
Yeah, and so basically, I mean, that might have led into it, but basically from birth, she had like this twist in like part of her intestines that never got picked up on anything. And because maybe of the Giardia or whatever, the precipitating factors that basically popped, it immediately like flooded her system with like bacteria, which you can kind of get from like diverticulitis that goes on too long.
Yeah.
And she died almost instantly from it. And she'd been misdiagnosed for like months before that.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
like you said, Crohn's disease.
Oof.
Really, really bad way to die. And, but she was another one that passed at an early age that worked on this, film. As far as the plot of the movie, I mean, I'm just going to cover like broad things. We can kind of like, go into parts we liked or disliked about them. The movie basically starts out typical Spielberg fashion. He's setting up like, the suburbia. He made this the same time as E.T. Literally
yeah, it looked just
E.T.
like it.
And it's got that same vibe to it, literally. I mean, and which funny, Heather O'Rourke, her character was almost played by Drew Barrymore, who ended up in E.T., but Spielberg, whenever he was casting both movies at the same time, he's like, no, you're not really, I need somebody, and this is a horrible slap in the face of Drew Barrymore, because even as a kid, how do you say this about somebody? He's like, you don't have an innocent enough look about you to play the character of Carol Ann, so I'm going to have you in E.T. because I think you're a better fit for that. I don't know what Drew Barrymore gave. It was like, I guess she just gave him a look like I'm a child actress who's getting ready to do some cocaine in a few years or something.
Yeah. Maybe. Oh my God. It's like he called the future that, or he kind of knew what she was exposed to already, which started at a very young age. So Who knows?
But so anyways, it starts out in the typical, in this like idyllic suburban neighborhood. You know, you got the guy who's, you know, pedaling down the street with the beer cans on the back, and he drops most of them in the yard as he's like, you know, whiskying to, you know, watch this football game. And but before that, one thing I got to mention: this is the only horror movie that I know of that begins by playing the actual, you know, the American anthem.
Oh yeah,
the American national anthem is playing over the like credits of this movie, because that's how it starts out. Because before that, it shows the dog going through the house and picking up like treats and stuff, like snacks from all the people, like, you know, a bag of chips from here, half-eaten PB&J from
dog.
This. You know what the thing about the movie, like just watching the intro, like watching it, you can reminisce of a younger America from that era.
Oh yeah,
where everything wasn't as bad. Like and not that, but it was just funny because I don't think that really happens like that anymore. The dude riding a bike up to the store to get more beer. And there were so many factors.
And it was the kid's bike, too, because that bike shows up later in the film, and you realize it's the kid's. And I'm like, oh, okay, he used fucking his friend's kid's bike to go get beer.
Yeah, that's a little inaccurate, because that dude would have drove hammered to the store to pick up more beer.
True story.
Especially back then.
Yeah, back in those days, for sure.
Yeah, people weren't really given DUIs a lot of times, even though you were hammered. Or they didn't. Or DUIs didn't matter.
I agree with you completely, though. It plays. I mean, it's like a time capsule of its own. It's like showing like a more innocent America, which, I mean, you know, they get into it later in the movie where they have like, you know, the dad, Steve, you know, he's reading a book about Reagan or whatever, you know, kind of bringing in that whole 80s nostalgia.
Oh yeah,
that way.
I was laughing. His wife's over there smoking weed, and he's reading a book about Reagan, who was one of the biggest anti-drug presidents.
Oh my God!
So I was just laughing. I was like, that's basic America right there.
But you got to remember, this was before he became the anti-drug president. This was like very early in the Reagan's presidency.
Oh,
it's like,
okay. That makes a little more sense then.
So I mean, it's a very, I mean, just the fact that, I mean, you're watching it, you're literally hearing the American national anthem playing. It's like, okay, outside of The Purge, this is like the only time that I would imagine hearing this song.
Yeah,
in front of a horror movie.
Oh my God, it does set it up really well, though.
And the only thing I was going to say is the scene with the you know, they're trying to watch football, and then the dad gets in a remote fight, you know, remote control fight with a next door neighbor, who's trying to let his kids watch Mr. Rogers. I mean, that, I don't know. I just love that scene so much, just because, like, I mean, I didn't as a kid, you know, obviously it's like, whatever, I don't know what these people are doing, but like, it rings like so like real. I mean, like, there's the authenticity to it. Like, you know, just the way that he's kind of, you know, the little back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah. With the switching. Oh my God. And the kids wanting to watch Mr. Rogers. Really? Come on. Who watched? I'm assuming that was the weekend. Mr. Rogers wasn't really playing on the weekend. So at least not at that time.
None of that, but you couldn't change the channel by hand?
That requires way too much work. This is probably when remotes were just starting to really, like...
Oh, it is.
Yeah, they were starting to come out, so it's like, no, I want to use the fucking remote. I want to have to get up. What is this, the 50s?
Well, I remember the first couple TVs we had, it was all by hand. There was no remote.
Yeah. Oh,
well, I just want to throw out there that at least in Appalachia, your TV remote was your kid. It's like, change the channel to channel 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I tell stories about my wife. Like, I was telling my wife stories about, we didn't have a TV in our room growing up, but me and my brothers had found somebody who threw a TV into the trash can, and we were white trash dumpster diver kids. Like, we would always be dumpster diving to find out somebody threw something away we could potentially fix. Well, someone had threw away TV, the top of the antenna thing like ripped off, but like, so we pulled the TV out of the trash can. It was in decent condition, other than a chunk of plastic being ripped off and the antenna ripped off. So we brought it home and plugged it in, and it turned on. We're like, whoa,
we got a TV.
So then we took a bunch of like metal coat hangers, and then we rigged it up, and we were able to make like this rickety antenna with aluminum foil, and it worked. And we're like, I remember my dad was like, "You guys dug it like a trash to the TV," and it's like, "Yeah." He's like, you guys better not leave it around the house when it doesn't work or something like that. And then I remember we brought it upstairs and it worked. We were like, hell yeah! So like we're bringing it at 10. It was like an 11 or 13-inch black and white TV, but it was like, hell yeah,
basically the size of a cell phone today. No, I'm just kidding.
It was smaller than the size of the average laptop screen.
Yeah.
But whatever, man. We had a TV, so like I remember we brought it upstairs. We hooked our Nintendo to it, and it was like, oh my God,
this is the dream.
Like, yeah, it was a big deal, man.
And now our kids have like multiple
flat
TVs
screens in
all
every house.
Over, like,
yeah, they're dirt cheap.
Their laptops are connected to laptops, and go back into this movie, their remotes will actually change the channels because they're all the same TVs, all the same remotes. So if one of the kids wanted to be an asshole, they could totally change what the other person is watching.
Yeah, like the screens they have, they're like, so they have smaller TVs or whatever that are where their desk are at. So when they bring their laptop over there, they just plug their laptop into the screen. So they actually play on a different screen. They play their video games and stuff. But all the TVs are the same. So the TV in the living room, I could reach over and point it at one of their
screens and just shut it off.
And they can shut it off. I do it to my son sometimes when he starts getting loud. I'll reach over and just, he's like, hey, like you're the thing. I was like, oh, my bad. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, my God.
I've got a story to kind of match up what you're talking about with the TV. Like I had the most white trash setup ever for like the TV I had that I played my Nintendo on in my room whenever I was a kid in the 80s. I had this big floor model TV that the picture didn't work, but the sound did. And then on top of that, I had a small screen TV like you're talking about the same size.
Oh my God.
The sound didn't work, but the screen did. And so between the two of them, I was able to play my Nintendo with sound.
Hell yeah.
Listening to you guys say those things makes me realize that I did not grow up poor like my parents said I did.
Dude, everything we had, every box of cereal had duct tape on it. Because all the food lockers and stuff would give you like the stuff that fell and got smashed at the stores, and they just sell them at food lockers. Like,
oh my God.
We grew up eating that, and we were so broke growing up.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but that was, dude, them are the, like I always, like when I get together with my brother and we talk about it, we just laugh a bit. Like I remember we figured out how to dub movies. Like my parents didn't understand the technology. So we ran across a VCR or someone that threw away something with the
shocker.
Cord. Yeah. We're dumpster diver kids, and somebody had threw away a VCR in a dumpster. We dug it out, and where the cable went in had got ripped off or something like that. So we wired on we rewired a cable to the back end of it, and I remember we wrapped it in duct tape, and we were able to plug it in and got the VCR to work. And then what we did is my parents had a Beta. They ended up getting a Beta. They carried it around in a suitcase. So when we went to people's houses, they would pull it out so we can watch movies. It was a big deal. And so I remember we figured out that if you run the Beta if you run the Beta into the VCR and then into the TV, you can record the output. So we used to dub all the movies from the local video store.
Oh, my God. Look, if you want more stories like this, Blue Collar BS airs every Friday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Hey.
There's a time and a place for these conversations.
There's nothing wrong with being white trash.
No, but you can hear more stories like that on Blue Collar BS. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
It's still tied into video, the whole idea of video and movies.
Well, the only thing I was going to say on the backside of that, just to wrap it up before we get back in the movie, is that's the main reason why I think that the Nintendo, entertainment system, NES, was like such a big deal to me as a kid, because that was like literally as much as that costed, like to whenever my dad got that for me for Christmas, it's like literally, and there's a new movie with Neil Patrick Harris where they talk about this to a certain extent that's coming out. But like it was my version of a Christmas story. Like whenever I got that, like I saw this local kid who worked at whose parents like owned the grocery store that he played the game, the NES at all the time, and that's all I wanted. Like but I knew like my parents were too broke to and somehow I got it, and like that was that's the reason that was such a big deal to me, because I knew that was something way outside of what I should have ever expected them to be able to afford.
Your parents did a little B&E. And stole some kid's Nintendo system.
Well, you gotta remember, movies and games cost the same.
No, I remember.
They cost the same then as they do now.
Yeah.
And dollars were way harder to get back then.
Oh, so yeah.
When you drop $60 on a video game, man, that was some money.
I just remember.
Oh,
yeah. It was hard having a system and not have a lot of games to go. It's basically one game you just played over and over and over, because it's like we couldn't afford to get another fucking game. So
yeah, and that's why you ended up renting like Mega Man 2 for the 42nd time from the video store, because $2 at a clip was easier to afford than $60.
You want to hear some white trash things that we used to do?
No, that's for Blue Collar BS. Back to our scheduled programming.
We used to swap the game cartridges and guts out. So if there's a game we'd like, we'd open up the cartridge and swap over the internals and then return the game back to the store.
That had to be some confusing ass shit.
Going back to the movie, the only thing that I was going to say, other than to like going on the next thing, is just there was a scene with the mom in this I thought was kind of funny, where she like sees Tweety has died in, like, I guess that's Carol Ann's room or whatever, the little canary that they have. And like, I just like her line that she says. It's like, "Oh shit, Tweety, couldn't you have waited for a school day?" Like, basically that's such a
yes.
I can see that. That like rings true even now. Like, I can see a mom saying that.
Yeah, and and the whole flushing part. My husband and I were watching, and he's like, "That looks like a bad idea." Yeah,
I'm watching her getting ready to flush the bird. I was like, of all the ways to dispose of it, throwing it in the toilet is what we went with.
Oh my god. Okay, but what relevance did this scene have in this movie? Seriously, I can think of a few ideas, but like, do you guys have any? Like, what was the relevance? There was a reason this was in the film.
There's one thing that I can bring up, but first of all, I want to say that I had this in the show notes, specifically what you were talking about. I said it was probably for the best that Carol Ann found her getting ready to flush it and told her she wouldn't buried, because it would have been hell on the plumbing if she would have tried to flush that damn bird.
It's not like some poop that gets mashed up and goes its way. The bird's a solid piece of matter.
She was obviously still high from the night before.
Even if you're high, Elsie.
That's funny if you remember in this scene that it sets up one thing, which, I mean, it doesn't have to be there for this, but I just think it's a funny little callback. When she opens up the cigar box that they keep their weed in to bury Tweety in, Carol Ann makes the comment. She's like, "Tweety doesn't like that. It smells funny."
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And I was thinking the bird smelled. It flew over my head.
But the thing that sets up, and this is such a minor scene that it doesn't have to be in the movie at all, is that they go out there and they have the whole scene where they bury Tweety in the yard. And then when those creepy guys from the construction company come to dig up, they dig up Tweety. And
I saw that,
that's foreshadowing for, what happens.
Big time.
Okay.
When I saw that, also, that's a precursor.
Yes, and I was thinking that too, but I was like, it was so, I don't know, minor. I guess it's one of those blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah, easily.
It's not needed at all. You're 100% on that. It shows the son at this point that he's scared of the tree outside and of that creepy ass fucking clown that's in the movie.
Rightfully so. Even before the clown got possessed, that thing was fucking creepy. And I'm sorry, but on this exact thing of that kid being scared of the tree, why did nobody close the fucking curtains? I don't want to see this tree. Hey, guess what? Let me tell you the secret. See those curtains right there? They actually close. You don't have to see that tree.
Remember, this was a new dawn for America. It was Reagan's America. We didn't coddle our children in those days. We gave them fucking huge ass darts, said go out in the yard and throw them at each other. That's the kind of America we lived in at this time.
Big time.
Yeah, but the kid could have done it. Like, I can understand the parents not doing it, which I don't know, seems kind of weird. I guess back in the day nobody ever worried about someone.
They also could have took the clown out of the room too.
That's true, but they didn't. Oh my God. All right,
it's
moving
like face
on.
your fears or don't, but but you gotta man up.
Just
kid.
Take your goddamn ass to bed. I gotta go smoke some weed and blink your dad.
Sounds like a good time.
The one thing I was going to say about this is that the Spielberg specifically put the clown and the tree in this movie because those were both fears he had as a kid.
Oh,
so
okay.
A little behind the scenes for you.
Alrighty.
So you have the thunderstorm that hits that night. The son is scared, like the dad,
Like the little bitch he is.
This is the part where the joints, smoking the joints. I feel real bad for those parents because they were getting ready to have round 2, and then the son has to come in there and fuck everything up for them.
Yeah, he's a little bitch.
You know what though? But I in classic 80s fashion, we act like that would have flown, but in reality, in that scenario, in the 80s, they would have said they would have jumped all over the kid, like, you better get your ass in your goddamn room if you know it's good for you. If you don't want to whoop your ass, that's what. In the reality, that's what would have happened.
Yeah, it really would.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. Like, I don't like. This is why I don't have any siblings. But I legit slept in my parents' bed every fucking night. I don't know how they stayed married as long as they did.
See, that wasn't even an option growing up in our house.
Well, yeah, you guys had. There was 3 boys. There was no way that was gonna happen. I was an only child.
Like, we all knew if there was a problem, you don't tell your parents because you can get your ass whooped. They don't. Regardless of how legitimate the concern was. You better keep that to your goddamn self.
I knew that because my mom was mean in that aspect. But I just didn't sleep in my room. I just did not do it. I slept in their bed all the fucking... I don't even know how old I was. I'm assuming I was somewhere between 10 and 12 when I started sleeping in my own goddamn room. Yeah. And then I get mad that I'm an only child.
Yeah, it's so good. You had 2 rooms growing up.
I had... That was on top of my parents' room. I slept in their room and I had 2 bedrooms of my own.
Oh, man.
It was a hard life.
And a hard knock life.
Yes.
I got to make a comment on this scene, too. This is something that I'm sure people would get upset about nowadays, which is ridiculous. The mom's is stoned, like reading a cookbook, and the dad's reading the book about Reagan.
Yes.
And I could hear somebody make the comment, gender norms, and of course the mom has a cookbook,
reality, she probably just had the munchies because she was high.
You know how true that is? Like, if you were to go in a room, like when it's close to me and the old lady go to bed, and you would look at the things that we were interested in, my wife would be over there watching TikTok cat videos, and I would be watching something about like philosophy or finance or studying like political trends. I would be doing stuff like, but that is the reality of the situation. That is more true than you think.
It's what nature draws you to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree at all, and I didn't find it, at all, like, I mean, out of the norm. It's just I saw that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sure somebody would make a comment about this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, oh, look at them fucking oppressing her.
Yeah, smoking weed, having a good time.
Yeah.
And of course, the kids, even after the dad has the conversation about, count the thunder and lightning. And, that's why you can tell if the storm's coming closer or moving farther away to kind of help alleviate their fear so you can go back and, bang their mom again. They still end up in bed with them. So, I mean, that's unfortunately the night was ruined for the parents, but that's how things go.
Well, you know what they say, thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening.
That night, Carol Ann, which she's already done this once in the movie at the beginning of it, where she, talks to the TV and disturbs the parents right at the beginning of it, and the rest of the family. But this is the famous line that everybody remembers from the movie, where, while the TV kicks on, or, after it kicks off the national sign off or whatever for the night, which is a thing kids nowadays probably have no idea what that was. But, TV channels actually shut off for the night and you could not watch anything, and with the static. While the static's playing, she goes over there and starts talking to people on the TV, and that's when she gives that creepy line, "They're here," So that's a pretty famous line from the movie and a pretty famous scene.
You know what gets me is I don't know if you touched on it or you're going to touch on it, is the guy who's the developer of the.
Well, we'll probably get to that.
Oh yeah, we're going to get into Teague. Yeah. He's that
guy's a classic cult horror icon.
Yeah, he was in Return of the Living Dead. I mean, that movie's the only movie I can say in my life that scared me so bad that
he was in both of them. He was in Return of the Living Dead and then
1 and 2.
Yes. Yeah. And he played the same sleazy,
basically the same character.
Yes, like that horrible, like horror movie like person. Like the worst of the worst type of guys.
Yeah, he was the scumbag that, kind of like the 80s, I'm all about myself.
Yes.
I'm not gonna,
big time.
I mean, he's literally a grave robber in Return of the Living Dead too. I mean, that's what he does.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, it's just he has a iconic type of role.
Well, since you brought him up, I'm going to mention this. This is behind the scenes. So he was a spokesman for a big time, I guess this goes back to, I don't know. Well, I don't know if it was a chicken, company or something like that, but it was some kind of, no, it was a grocery store. That's what it was. He was a spokesman for a grocery chain and did like the commercials and stuff for that before he got Poltergeist, as a movie. And that's what started his acting career. He got so many threats after he did this movie because people hated his character so bad. And the company that he worked for prior, the grocery company, did that they had to drop him as a spokesman.
It's a movie. What?
Oh my God.
I hate people.
They cancel culture way before it became popular, folks.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's always been around to a degree.
Well, it's the same thing that happened to Linda Blair. I mean, we brought that up on The Exorcist. I mean, she literally got death threats as a child because people thought she was possessed.
What? Oh, my God.
It was called the Satanic Panic, and that was a real thing. And it happens in cycles, and we explained it on the Vivitch if you want to go back and watch. Was that that was like our number 2 or 3 episode, huh?
Well, we talked about Satanic Panic there, but I think it was House of the Devil that we delved into the whole phenomenon.
We talked about Satanic Panic multiple times, yeah.
But that sucks. The guy's trying to do something to further his career, and so he picks on a role, and then it has these giant ramifications where it actually loses his other job.
Just because he's a shitty person in the movie doesn't mean that he's
actor.
He's
an actor. The whole idea of acting is to get you to believe. That means he did a good job.
Oh my God,
a really good job. And he's got that face too. I've got to throw it out there.
Oh,
He's got that smug look about him.
The face you want to hate.
Yeah.
So anyways, in this scene, there's that massive energy release from the vortex above the bed. And like in the next day, like the dad's talking or he's mentioning it to somebody. And he's like, did you feel that 6 or, he's on the phone with somebody.
Yeah,
and he's
6.5.
Like, 6.5.
How do you know the fucking, on the Richter scale, where that shake was?
He's a seismologist.
Oh my God.
In addition to being a real estate agent.
You know what got me is they never addressed the burn mark it created on the wall.
Oh yeah.
They just act like, oh yeah, I don't see that. Like I don't know if you saw that on the wall after it hit it. There's a giant burn mark.
There's like a hole or something like that.
Like a burn mark. And when the mom comes in there when the dog's barking at the wall, and the
dog was praising Jesus. Okay.
Okay. Whatever, however you want to spin it. The dog was possessed. But the dog's even in there barking at the wall. And she goes in there and stares at it, and she doesn't even bother walking over and touching it or looking at it.
Yeah, she's like, just look. It's funny because she looks like she's lost. Like she's looking up and around. Like, what are you looking at?
She's
and I'm
that
like,
high.
Do you not see the huge hole, the gaping hole? Unlike the one you probably have, you whore.
Wow. Kids just falling out of that thing.
Yes. Cannonball.
Here's our next child. Plop. Well, that goes into the next thing I was going to bring up. I mean, like the mom, this is at the point in the movie. I mean, this is right after what we talked about earlier, when she was the cool mom with the construction workers getting creepy with her daughter outside. This is the scene where Carol Ann's like talking to her in the kitchen, and all of a sudden the chairs are moving, and then they did the thing where they immediately stack up on each other.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I would be scared personally. Like, I wouldn't be staying in that house after that.
Yeah, this is how this would go with my wife. We're leaving now.
I wouldn't even try to sage or bless the place.
I know you. It'd be 100% we're leaving.
We're fucking gone.
Yeah, no, that's a serious statement. It would go like that.
Okay, but to be fair, give me at least this. If I showed you the chair sliding across the floor, which I would not do because I'd be out of the fucking house, but if I showed you that, would you at least believe me?
Yeah, but like we ain't going anywhere.
You're like this. There's a scientific explanation. He would stay in the house, and we would probably be divorced because
you would be making TikTok videos with your friends if that happened.
Not in the house.
Oh, I don't believe that.
I'd be like playing creepy music, explaining over my expensive mic.
I think you'd want to leave, but you'd be messing around and making TikTok videos or crap like that.
I don't think I would. I get bad feelings, and I will escape. See, I even do it in my dreams.
That would be an awesome promo for the show right there.
What?
That, if that was real, you could like an intro clip with that.
With what? Me explaining how I'd be fucking gone?
No, if that was happening. Like, never mind. You
oh
missed what I was saying.
Anyways, yes. So that's how that would go.
Yeah, I could hear it already.
So the scene where the chairs are sliding, like we talked about, I mean that's the very next scene. So that goes back to what you all were saying. It's like if she didn't acknowledge the thing on the wall, and she didn't acknowledge the chair stacking up, and the fact that she thought it was cool that the chairs were sliding. I mean, there was nothing that fazed Cool Mom. I mean, she just didn't give a shit.
It blew my mind that she was like, "Look at this, is awesome," and the husband was like, "Ugh," against the wall, like. His mind was blown.
My thought coming into that, before I even realized that they were insinuating there was something supernatural pulling that chair, was the foundation was bad. And that's what that's as a dad, when I would have come in, I would have been like, "Oh shit, what's wrong with the fucking foundation?" That's what
but then they have his daughter slide across the room, which I think solidified that there's something else going on, some kind of centrifugal force that is pulling this child, in the area. Which my husband would get really scientific into it.
I would have pulled a level out, where the floor is nice and level. Like, what's going on here?
Measuring tape, bring out the calculator.
Oh, serious? I would have went down.
Start marking shit.
I would have went down a rabbit hole. I got a laser out.
He'd get a laser light to
I would have been all over trying to scientifically prove what the hell was going on.
God, and I'd be out here with my cross and my holy water and my fucking salt.
Oh my God.
I would have probably been a combination of the two, because I don't like when shit the chair stacking. I would have been like, let's go, we're getting a priest or something. This ain't happening in my place. But as far as the chair sliding, I would have been the opposite. I've been like, what's wrong with the fucking foundation? We bought another piece of shit house like we had before. I'm gonna have to spend thousands of dollars fixing this.
100% would have fucked it up for the next family, because I would have been like to the ghost, you know how people tell ghosts to leave, or poltergeist, whatever, they're like, you don't belong here, you need to get out. I'm like, you can fucking stay, have the house, it's yours. I'm gonna go have a good time. I'm not dealing with this shit. And then the other people would be fucked, because I had just invited the poltergeist to stay in the house.
Oh, you invited them to follow you?
No, they can't follow me. I'm leaving, you stay, is what I said.
Well, we'll get into the follow stuff later, because that ties into the sequel, which we're going to briefly talk about.
All right.
So the scene, the just to go into the movie making aspect, the chairs like moving across the floor, that was just a very simple special effect they had, where they did it to where they had like a wire type effect that you could barely see, like underneath like the floor, and then they had like the way the floor linoleum or whatever or tile was designed, it was like perfectly over like a split in the tile, or at least like the grout line, so they could pull the wire basically through that grout wire, or where that grout was at.
Oh yeah,
so
that you could easily pull that off.
Yeah,
like if you grounded out the grout joint and cut a small piece of wood and hauled out the core, you could slam it in the joint and then made an apparatus that slid within it.
Yeah, and they did the same thing later whenever they did the stake, like as it was like inching its way across the countertop. They had the same exact scenario set up. They had like the cutout underneath. The tile itself was like, grouted out to where they could just inch it along, along the grout line. So pretty simple, but it's effective for what it is.
Yeah.
So and then there's that scene after that where they're trying to talk to the neighbor and see if he was experiencing anything supernatural, and he just kind of gave them a look like, you fucking dopers, what the.
Well, yeah, they could not fucking get that was an annoying scene, because they couldn't get the words out. They just fucking say it, and then when they
kept giggling,
and he's like, you're high as fuck, and like he really was. He was like, well, what do you mean by anything weird happening? Weird shit goes on in this house all the time. Have you seen my wife? I don't know. You get it,
But and then of course that night there's this huge tornado that happens. The son gets swallowed by the tree while the parents are distracted trying to save him. Carol Ann gets pulled into this vortex that opens up in her closet, and then she and then there's a scene in the movie where like the bed, she's holding onto the bed frame as it's pulling her in, and like it stretches out, trying to show you just how much force is being exerted. Which, by the way, if you're thinking about this logistically, her arms would have dislocated way before that would have bent the way that it did. But let's just suspension of disbelief there for a second.
Well, it looked like, okay, this is me, and I could be overthinking this, but when I was looking at the bed frame, because I too was wondering, okay, how is this bending? What is it made out of? It looked like it was made out of that wicker material, which was popular in the 80s. Wicker chairs, headboard. So I was thinking that it was just made out of wicker, and in that case, her arms wouldn't have broken. That's the logical explanation. I mean, I wasn't really overthinking it so much. It just looked like that to me. So I'd have to watch it again, though, to be sure.
It's just something, I mean, I was watching and I was like, I mean, yeah, it's cheap metal or is what it's meant to look like. But even with that, I mean, like her arms were way more forgiving and flexible.
This little girl's arms, yeah.
I don't know about that because I remember times growing up, we'd be hanging from trees. Like we'd have one of our buddies hanging from a tree and then we'd hang from our buddy. And I don't remember our arms ever dislocating in that apparatus. I mean, you're talking about a 90-pound kid with another 90-pound kid hanging from him.
Okay, how many times were you being sucked into the vortexy abyss?
Oh, that was like once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, about once or twice a month. Whenever
when you're white trash, that stuff is super common.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because that's the only way you can get houses if they're built on Indian burial grounds. I mean, that's just
for that price,
thing.
Yeah, you're giving these things away.
Which. Got to make a note of this before anybody, has any comments about it. This movie never established that this was an Indian burial ground. Actually, Teague, the guy we just talked about, made a point of saying that he said it's not an ancient Indian burial ground. He even says that in a later scene to Steve, the dad, that it's not, it's just a regular cemetery,
that plays out in the film because if you look at some of these corpses that come out in the film, they're not Native Americans. Some of them have pearls and like lacy, like I don't know, just like the type of clothes that they're wearing and the jewelry they have with them and everything. It's not Native American. Even the stuff that fell through the wall.
I just bring it up because it's one of those things that, got into such the mindset and, zeitgeist or whatever, that like numerous films throughout the rest of the 80s had the, ancient Indian or Native American burial ground as like a setting.
Yeah.
And they all reference Poltergeist as a reason, but Poltergeist specifically does not have that.
Yeah, they do not. There's no way, which is pretty funny. That is racist right there.
Really?
They just want to blame the Indians for everything.
Well, and here's the reason why it probably happened. I got to bring in a little bit of discussion of two on this. Two had a Native American shaman, which I don't think that's what they call themselves, more medicine man, but like had like him come to follow the family and and try to help them cleanse because they're being it wasn't just that was in the house. The spirits, because of this convoluted story that they tack on in part 2 with this Reverend Kane, who was this old time doomsday evangelist, basically, who said the world was going to end in 18 whatever, which is a real thing that happened. There was a lot of preachers at the time that did this. He took a bunch of his congregation out to the area where the Freelings house and the subdivision was built on. He went into this underground cavern, and this is all in the second movie, mind you. And he kept people there, waiting for Judgment Day to happen. When it didn't, he wouldn't let them leave, and so they all basically starved to death and died underneath the place. And they were the reason, not just the people that were in the cemetery, but it was the spirits of the congregation of Cain, and Cain being the one that they reference as the beast in this.
Oh yeah,
he was the one that caused all of the problems in the house, and he saw Carol Ann as a way to find power again and be able to influence the world again and outside the spirit world. So he follows her in the second movie, and then that's where the Native American shaman comes in, and that's maybe where they got the confusion at with the Indian burial ground stuff, but it's not in either movie. So just throwing that out there.
Alrighty.
And the guy who played Reverend Kane, well, I'm going to throw out some more stuff about the curse since I brought it up. The guy who played Reverend Kane, now granted, if you watch the second movie, he looks emaciated. He looks like a walking skeleton. The guy had just been diagnosed with like this extreme stomach cancer.
Oh, shit,
so the fact that he passed away before the movie was ever released, kind of makes sense. The guy was already sick with extreme
creepy ass looking motherfucker. He looks like that cryptid character that is probably on Creepypasta that everyone calls the Smiling Man.
Yes. Yes, he does. And the weird thing is the guy who played the Native American medicine man in the second movie, he actually died shortly after filming that movie of complications too, and so I mean that kind of fed into the whole curse part of it.
The curse continues.
I mean, yeah, look at Kathleen Kennedy. She ruined the entire Star Wars franchise. The curse continues. Yeah. Things are still dying.
Let's see. He within 2 years of filming the sequel, the Native American actor died of malnutrition and post-operative kidney failure.
Ooh,
that's kind of weird.
Holy shit!
You ever? And so many people died from stomach-related issues.
That's true. That really is true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's like a framing that falls within that.
The only one who didn't, and of course this guy died years later, so I don't know if you can even link this into it. People just throw it in there because it's coincidence. But here's the thing: if you go to a movie and then now granted the way this guy died, I can see why they linked it in. But if you watch a movie, you can. I mean, eventually everybody in that movie is going to pass away, so you can keep throwing stuff back on it. But an actor named Lou Perryman, who played a small role in the original film, the one we're discussing, played a character called Pugsley in the movie. I don't even know what character that is. It's just something I came across whenever I was doing the research for this. He was actually murdered in his own home by an axe.
Oh, shit.
But it was like decades later. So, I mean, you can, if you want to lump that in due to the nature of how he died, then, I can see that. But the fact that he died decades later, I'm like, that's kind of dumb. I don't know how that, really ties in. Richard Lawson, who we've not got to yet, but we're going to. I like to call him Ray Parker Jr. Because he's the African-American black actor who played the paranormal researcher in the movie. He looks like the guy who sung the Ghostbusters songs, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
at least to me, he
does. He does.
To hark back to what you said about that whole idea of everybody eventually dies in a movie. That's the whole reason that you should. That's the reason that when you make a good movie in an era, it encapsulates that era. So it doesn't matter when you go back in from the future and watch it. When you're in the future and you watch it, it gives you a framing of the era and what people were like. I think that's the biggest thing about movies that's amazing, because you can go back all through history since movies were started, and you get to see the progression of people in general. I think
and culture and really see the culture. Yeah, for sure. But Richard Lawson, the character who played the paranormal researcher, I don't know. They threw this in there as the curse too, but and I'm just bringing it all up at the same time. But he was on a flight in 1992, about 10 years after this movie came out, and the flight crashed, killing 27 out of the 51 people on board. But he survived. So if there is a curse, it didn't affect him.
Ooh, he got lucky.
Wow. Well, the curse don't want to be known as racist.
Oh, it was foretelling.
Man, we could be canceled over this. Let's be careful. Play this one close.
But so, and we'll get into why they think the movie's cursed and all that. But I do want to throw out there that several people associated with the movie are very pissed off at the fact that they even think there's a curse to this movie. Zelda Rubenstein in particular was one that went on record saying that she was adamantly opposed to anything about there being a curse on the film. And she was actually angered by people who made that comment. And one of the production designers said that it was more of a slap in the face of Heather O'Rourke and Dominique Dunn to take their tragic loss at a young age and try to and then throw this in there as it's some kind of supernatural thing. It was he made the argument that it was just this unfortunate thing that happened, and you're kind of demeaning their lives by lumping it under this supernatural origin.
Okay, are they doing that, or is this just creating more press and more excitement to watch the films, because everything we've ever heard of that may have potentially had a curse, we're like, ooh, we need to watch that and we need to talk about it.
You think you'd lean into that as the producer or the director of the film, lean to it, like, yeah, there might be a lot of validity in that.
Only after the films are made. If while the films are being made, obviously I would agree with the producers that you don't want that kind of press.
No, but as time goes on and they become forgotten, that's a good way to re-drum up excitement about
remember that curse that we had on this,
Yeah. You think that'd be like a marketing point?
It really depends on the person, because there was an old time movie producer, Castle, was his last name, who made the original House on Haunted Hill. He operated entirely upon building up the stuff around his movies. I mean, he was one person that parked like an ambulance outside the movie theaters, trying to say that you would have a heart attack during the movie. So you and had you sign waivers before you went in, to say that he was free of any kind of legal issues if you did, just to drum up business about how scary his movies were, which they really wouldn't. But I mean, he would have leaned into something like this for sure.
That's good marketing.
He was.
Yeah.
Oh, William Castle was his name.
Yeah. But in the movie, we get Carol Ann. She's we were talking about the rubber bed frame or whatever. She goes into the vortex. Parents can't find her, and that's whenever they hear her voice come through the static in the TV. And that's whenever we bring up the part of the movie that's all about the paranormal researchers and them trying to investigate. And I like the scene where the dad's he's talking to him at first, and he's got the dark circle, Craig T. Nelson's got the dark circles under his eyes.
Yeah, he's looking horrible.
He's and they're sitting there and they're talking about it. They're giving him all this shit about how we saw a whole Buick move over the course of 17 hours.
Yeah, I know.
Really?
Yeah, if you couldn't see it with your naked eye, but if you put it on a time lapse, and I'm just okay.
Oh my God! And then he just looked at them check this out.
I get that look is just so perfect. His face, he's just really? Okay, yeah. Open the door, look in there. The only thing that I don't like about this scene when they open the door and the stuff's flying around the room, it's one of the worst effects in the movie.
Come on, it was 1982.
Yeah, come on. There was VHS in the market. Come on now, what are we talking about?
It looked okay on a non-high def television on a little 11-inch. Fucking garbage,
black and white, dumpster
that
TV.
Looked fucking amazing.
Well, the funny thing, I was laughing. There was a part in the movie where it shows a clock, or what was that? It had some kind of number, but it was my number, my employee number for the place I work.
It was in the middle of the night when 2:37 in the morning, when the TV was just about to go to static, and he's like, "Hey, that's my employee number."
Yeah, it was weird. I seen that. I was like,
let's not play the numbers. We're not going to do numerology up in here today.
Yeah, but I was just thinking it was 82. I was born in 82. It's my employee number where I work. I was like, holy shit, this is a little too close to home.
Yeah, you got some vivarium stuff going on with that. I mean, that's here's your grave that you're digging for yourself. Go dig some more each day.
Yeah.
Your spirit number for your employee number would be 3, because the 2 and the 3 is a 5, and the +7 is 12. 1 and the 2 makes 3. So that's the number you have.
What kind of
that's
circular
numerology.
Logic is that?
Numerology.
It's crazy talk.
Yes, it is.
And if you look at the moon at this angle, at this time of day, at this night, you could potentially see this, and it looks like this.
3 is a type of trinity that gets mocked by Satanists or people who believe in dark entities. So you got that going on.
Really? Okay, thank you. So you married the devil?
No, I'm just saying.
There's the scene where the lead researcher tries to contact the entity, and then Carol Ann's presence passes through Diane, and she's got that whole scene where she's like, "That's my daughter," and all that.
I can smell her farts.
Well,
she broke wind right in my face.
Yeah.
My mouth was
Look
open.
at
that's
smell.
That's the funny thing if you think of it that way, for sure.
Oh my God!
Smell my daughter. It's like, what?
Yeah, I was like, "Here, smell," and then the lady's like, "Yeah, it does smell like her." Like, bitch, you have never smelt her before. I'm just saying. I'm glad. Maybe she was like, "Yes, I'm so glad you feel like that's your daughter. We're gonna find her."
And this is around the same scene that the lead is discussing with Robbie about the other side, and how Carol Ann, should not go to the light because she's still living, and she gives like the background saying that the reason the ghosts are there is that she has been the light that's like distracting them from the one that's finally appeared for them to move on to the other side, and which is something something weird that Teague brings up that they don't bring up in the movie at all is whenever he's discussing with Steve about how they moved the cemetery, and that's the big reveal of the movie.
Yeah.
He makes this passing comment, and he's like, Carol Ann was born in that house, right? And Steve agrees with him. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, are you trying to insinuate that like Carol Ann, like her being there has always kind of like, is the culmination of all this, but they don't really, they don't bring it up.
This is where that I heard that statement, and the first thing I thought of is like, that development's all brand new. That their daughter's about 8 years old.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't make any chronological timeline events because they're in the middle of developing. Development happens quick.
Yeah, but they went in phases. They specifically said.
I know, but phases are never done in an 8-year range. Phases are done like 1 to 2 year spacing.
Now or back then?
Back then. Even back then, they had less standards and regulations they had to uphold.
Yeah, that's true.
So they were just pumping out houses.
I don't know.
Especially in the early 80s when the housing demand was through the roof.
You know what that's called? Semantics.
No, it's called consistency. Like don't think
about that shit. Think about other stuff.
Okay, I'm just
I don't disagree with you, because when I thought it too, I was sitting there trying to do the chronology of the whole thing in my head. I'm like, wait, how long have they been in this development?
Yeah, I was thinking they've been there for like 2 or 3 years at the max. Like it's all brand new. It's so brand new that no one's let grass look like shit yet.
Yeah, that's the second movie that they show that whenever they go back to the neighborhood and it's completely abandoned because of what happened in the course of this movie.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, so they're talking about her light, and I just bring up the thing about her birth is because I'm like, are they supposed to be insinuating with that line, because they never bring it up again, is that like that's reason A that Carol Ann can talk to them is because she was born into this and like heard the spirits from like even I guess the womb or whatever, which what about other kids that were maybe born around the same time as her in the subdivision? Or if it was just the fact that she, I don't know, like her being born in the house like was the light that that distracted them, and that's kind of what led to the manifestation of the ghost or whatever. I don't know if they were insinuating with that really, but they throw that in there.
The crazy little short lady with the kid voice did explain why they were attracted to her. She's the life that they wish they have, but they can't. But they also kind of, I don't know, they kind of went side off with it by saying, but they don't know that they're dead. And it's like, okay, they don't know they're dead, but they want her life force.
Let me throw a whole wrench in that whole analogy that they ran with, because I started laughing internally. So by that analogy of the movie is that when you die, you never go to heaven. You're just sitting in a coffin.
No. You can get trapped, which is, and they did really clearly say these people either got lost or they didn't want to go to the light or something else.
So what's the ratio of a graveyard of people that get lost? Oh, like 90% of people never make it to the other side then?
Well, it depends on how many people they keep burying and how big was the cemetery. We don't know because this whole plot of land was.
Well, I'm just saying though, but just on that one plot, it was almost like 100% nobody went to the other side.
I guess so, yeah.
I know, but do you understand where that really gets a little convoluted when you're trying to tell the story?
I guess, but don't think about that. Think about other shit.
It's not as convoluted as saying that there was a evangelist preacher that drug all of his congregation underneath a cave beneath the settlement. I mean, that's a whole other complication on top of all of it.
Yeah.
What movie was that again?
The second one.
That was the second one.
Oh, the second. I was thinking it was the most recent, like the Conjuring film we were watching. One of the Conjuring films where they had that whole underground.
The Devil Made Me Do It. Or
yes,
whatever it was called.
The Devil Made Me Do It.
Dog shit movie.
Oh my god,
shit movie.
No, but seriously, like, and another thing too is, okay, if this whole housing development, this is another breakdown. If it was built on a graveyard, why were none of the other houses haunted? Were they just all drawn to Carol Ann?
You're asking too many questions.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
So
like,
the one plot of land,
Carol Ann being born into the house is what like caused the spirits to like the this is total headcanon. This is what we always do on this show. But like, I mean, they kind of pulled a thing in this movie where they did like the prophecy, where basically when you die, you don't immediately go on. You kind of have to wait for your time to, you know, it's like it's almost like the Beetlejuice thing. It's like take a ticket and wait, you know, for the light to appear. And they were waiting for their light, and Carol Ann was born, and they got distracted and missed their opportunity.
You know what they needed?
So no other kids were born in this 8-year window either?
Not in the house.
That's the weird thing.
Yeah. And how many parents had their kids in the fucking home? This lady was crazy.
I'm just asking some reasonable questions.
You know, what they really needed was, and they lacked it, and this would have prevented the ghost from getting lost or the poltergeist, but they needed the handbook for the recently deceased. That would have assisted.
True. That
reads like stereo instructions.
Yes. But you know what? Whatever. They got a lot of time. What else are they going to do? Here's some literature.
Yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say you're right. Like it. I mean, the only argument you can make is like maybe Jo Beth Williams was, and this is going way out there to give this movie more credit than it ever deserves on this part, is that she was such a hippie that she was like, I'm gonna have a at home birth, and she's the only one that did that.
Yeah, but there's nothing other than her smoking weed that supports that.
Yeah,
there's nothing in her mannerism as a parent that supports that. Well,
it was technically her third child, and I hear by that point they're literally falling out. Hence,
we've already discussed that was happening with her. Yes. I mean, she's a little, loose. So.
The hole in the wall was her gaping hole. It was a representation, and just like things passed through there, well, fucking Carol Ann just passed right through her.
Are you trying to say that the vortex, the end of the movie, that where the
it was her vagina,
the thing was coming out of the vortex was her umbilical cord trying to pull her children back into the womb? Is that like a metaphor you're trying to make?
Hey, it works, and she came out covered in. They had to break through the fucking.
They did have the placenta. That is true. They really did have that.
I looked at it a little different. I looked at the closet was her mouth, and then the living room was her asshole, and whatever got consumed got shitted out.
Came right out. Oh, analogies. We are full of them here on Death Holler.
But what were you going to say, Noah, about the whole situation, about the birth and all that?
It's just to try to run that storyline coherently. The whole idea she was born there, and then when she was born there on that one piece of property, almost 100% of the graves that were there were all in rest. Like, they were better off running it as like one bad spirit, and then at that point you can give a little more tangible framework of the story you're trying to put together.
In Mexican world, it to me it makes sense because there was one huge bad spirit, and shockingly in lore, a lot of spirits are drawn to that bad spirit because of the energy it has. Usually a big bad, which there was in this film, is drawn to the energy usually of a child or somebody that is sensitive to that kind of thing. Now, whatever reason, people can be sensitive to, the supernatural for any reason.
Yeah, but
they play Carol Ann as being supernatural for, I don't know, whatever reason. It could be simply just because she's a child.
But then you have to disregard the entire subdivision full of other kids.
Yes, but are they not sensitive, or are they just not as vulnerable?
See, they could have framed this way better as a developing subdivision, and only 3 houses are currently built on that subdivision. So it's very limited. Then you could have made all the houses experiencing weird stuff, and then made the central apparitions happen at their location. But at that point, now you have a giant amount of framework to get loose with the story.
Well, this is how I'm explaining why it only happened at one house, because of that one big bad that was drawn to that one little girl, and all the spirits are like, okay, there's energy. We don't know that we necessarily like it, but there's energy over here because they're lost. They're fucking stupid. Like, they don't know what the fuck is going on.
I don't have a problem when the story gets loose with the idea, but you can't try to be consistent and then be immediately inconsistent.
It was the 80s, and I mean, literally, if they had gone with the Indian burial ground, it would make so much more sense. Because spirits were a big thing.
I was going to say, if we go by Poltergeist 2, which doesn't help this movie at all, if you're just going by its own internal logic, but I'm just throwing this out there. As convoluted as it is, they do explain in the second movie that Carol Ann is the third in a series of psychics, that her grandmother was a psychic.
Oh, yes.
Her mother's actually psychic, and she is a psychic.
Okay, so that's why the spirits would be drawn to her, especially a big bad.
Yeah.
They can almost channel through them. It's like she's a fucking TV with antennas.
But that is not. You can't use that logic for this movie though, because that was added on after the fact. That's like
you can't. But
thing, you know?
Yeah, it is after the fact. They didn't fix it in this film. It sounds like they tried to fix it.
This is the problem when I get to watch movies. Sometimes I get way too in the rational apparatus of it.
Yes, and that's fine because a lot of people do, especially people that do film reviews. But I like to call myself blissfully oblivious. I don't look too hard into it.
Let me disregard all the facts and get right to the storyline.
I enjoy the films at the end of the day, most of them anyway, so.
It didn't detract that much for me, honestly, because I just let it go. But I agree with Noah. I mean, there's so much like mental hurdles you have to jump to get this thing to work out for why it targeted that one house and that one girl. I mean, outside of the psychic thing.
It's just like religion. There was one woman in the Christian religion that was targeted to be the mother, and all these other things that go along with it.
Do you want our house haunted? You better shut your whore mouth.
So I got to ask you this, since we're on the religion thing, was Zelda Rubenstein when because we've not got to her yet, but we're going to, when she's introduced and she mentions the beast. That's why I said earlier about we've put Satan behind us mostly. Mm-hmm. Or is she insinuating that the beast is the devil? Like that's who the other big bad is?
I mean, I didn't get that from this. I just got that it was a really negative energy.
Well, yeah, she was just fast and loose with that idea.
Well, she was, yeah. But, I mean, and so, I don't know, because we talked about what the devil spends his time on, and I don't see the devil spending his time on a burial ground that got,
we all know
housing development
we
over
all
it.
know the devil is into watching porn, and he's consumed greatly with that.
But we also talked about how the devil spent 7 years trying to collect the soul of a dirt farmer in, New Hampshire. So, I mean, he's got time on his hands.
That was back. Why you got to bring up old shit? Okay, but he moved on because then he only came up for souls like Constantine. So he learned. Okay, you got to learn what souls are worth it.
The 20%.
But he hadn't learned by the 80s. I mean, come on.
No, he learned by the 90s.
Yeah, the 6,000 or 20,000 years of human history prior to that. You can't use that as any type of track record.
We're not talking about that. We're not talking about old shit. We're talking about
the
90s up until this point.
Which to be fair to the devil and Daniel Webster, that they didn't imply that the devil just waited for him specifically. He was probably working other souls at the same time.
Yeah, he could basically teleport. That movie was a good movie. I mean, the devil and Daniel Webster was a good movie.
Yeah,
I liked it.
We liked the portrayal of the devil.
I thought the story arc was good. That the accountability of human nature was good. There was a lot of things that
you were pretty upset by the mansion burning down.
Well, I thought it was just a waste of capital. I mean, redeployment would have been way better.
Sounds like something the devil would say.
But I'm just saying though, like that movie did a good job of. Because that was more of an understanding human nature movie.
Exactly.
It gave you a lot of framework about how to understand people.
Yeah, and basically the pitfalls that actual fortune and fame can bring to you if you don't have a good ethical side to you to begin with. That, which is my biggest argument against, which we brought up, the wife in that one standing by Jabez through the whole entire movie, because he let himself. I mean, I know that stuff can affect you, but he let himself become affected by the fame and the fortune and all that, and become the terrible person that he did. If he could have, he could have had all that and still been good to the people around him.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
It's power corrupts. Absolutely.
Yeah. But as far as this movie goes with the whole, Carol Ed, we're just going to accept the movie logic that the beast was there, and maybe the beast was targeting Carol Ann, and the I don't know, whatever, the lost souls were attracted by the light for some reason from all over the graveyard, and specifically to her for whatever reason.
Hey, it was like Monsters Inc., okay? Like the energy that a child's scream produces, which she didn't really scream in this film, but he was in the closet just like Monsters Inc., and they scare because they care.
The researchers in this movie claim that, going back to what Noah said, the mouth and the asshole, analogy, they claim that since there's a physical entrance, there must be a physical exit within the house for the vortex.
What
so
goes
if there is a
in
mouth,
must
there
go
is an
out.
asshole.
Ugh.
Makes sense.
I mean, it makes good sense. How can you dispute that?
Yes.
Technically, the inner space, which would be the small intestines, is the movie, which is also a metaphor where a majority of the people died that were attached to the movie genre.
Well, that's actually interesting you say that, because going back to that whole that scene, that vortex at the end with the thing snaking out, that could look like an intestine if you really wanted it to look that way, and that looked like the belly of the beast. So that really does tie into what you're saying quite a bit, honestly.
It's a metaphor of the curse related to the movie.
Oh Lord, it is. I mean, no, it does make sense.
Life's like a circle.
A circle of life, It goes round and round. There's a time around this that you got the stake moving, and then you got the face ripping scene, which a lot of people remember the face ripping scene. It's the most horrific thing in the movie.
It's so
the
cool.
Thing that stands out.
I thought it was an awesome.
It stands up. I mean, as bad as shitty as those special effects were with the stuff cycling around the room, this made up for it, because this scene stands the test of time.
I love that feel, cosmic horror. That's what that came off as, like a cosmic horror scene where the inner workings just completely disintegrate, and you're in this weird area that it's not reality, but you don't know if that's true or not. Like, I thought it was awesome when he was ripping his face off.
Yeah, and then the fact that he came to and he's like, holy shit, what just happened? Like, that's how Poltergeist fucking allegedly works. So
yeah, and the best is the guy didn't even want to come back. He's like, I'm not coming back to that house.
Well, which was probably smart on his end, because those tend to be vulnerable people that get affected the most.
And this scene is the most imitated scene in pop culture of any in the movie. I mean, that face ripping scene has been parodied in a million different things. It's
been recycled
or referenced.
Well, you know what got me? I'm kind of curious. I didn't do any research on it. So the Thing came out in '82, right?
Yes.
So the Thing got bastardized in the movie area, in the movie critics sphere.
Especially amongst our favorite person, Siskel and Ebert.
Over the gratuitous horror of the movie, but they missed the entire story arc and how amazing it was.
Are you talking about the gore in the film?
Yes.
Okay.
They trashed it over that. It's over the top.
But it also looked
good.
The
fact that it is a completely amazing allegory about Cold War, United States versus Soviet.
You don't know who the bad guy is. They're sleepers is what it is. It's a huge allegory to that. But the thing is, so what was Siskel and Ebert's take on the Poltergeist, which had a way more flawed storyline and had an over-the-top gratuitous horror scene too?
So I watched this. Siskel hated it. He said that it was too much fluff. The story wasn't coherent, so he was making the argument you made. Ebert, actually, he liked it. It was middle of the road. He said that it was enjoyable. He said that the special effects were well done, and he said that it was I think he might even argue maybe a good family film.
I mean, I guess,
for that era?
Yeah, to watch horror, to introduce your kids to horror. Yes. Yeah, it's a really good, which is probably why our kids fall asleep. They're like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, my kids were like, whatever.
Snooze fest. Yes. They're like, oh, man, this is so slow.
It needs to be something that grips them.
But I want to throw something out there. This goes back to what the question marks I kept putting behind Tobe Hooper. The face ripping scene is the only scene in this movie, that in the state that's moving through there, that I feel like that were Tobe Hooper, like him. I think that's the only thumbprint he has in this movie at all, whatsoever. This movie is completely, totally, 99.9% Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Very much.
Debate me on that.
It very much feels like that.
Prove me wrong.
So much so that Steven Spielberg actually got in trouble because he was contractually obligated under a different company, I think Universal, to make E.T. And it said in his contract, you will not make any other movies while you were making this. he specifically went and got Tobe Hooper and said, hey, you make this other movie, Poltergeist, because I want to make this movie. A lot of people think it's because he didn't want his, his brand to be, like a scary movie or anything like that. It's really just because he was, he wanted to make both of them at the same time, and he needed somebody to basically be his stand-in. Zelda Rubenstein has went on record as saying that Tobe Hooper had nothing to fucking do with this movie whatsoever. He was basically a yes man. Every time that Steven Spielberg walked on set, it was like, yes, sir, yes, sir. What do you want done in this scene?
Yeah.
No, that sucks. You know what would have been awesome now that I think about it? If they took the idea of The Thing and they used E.T. as a launching alien for it. And made it
oh my God.
And made it with kids. Like kids that get infected and they replicate it.
Wow.
Just quick tangent. Do you know that's the reason that John Carpenter is so cynical and so disillusioned, is that he made such an amazing movie and that it got overshadowed by another fucking alien movie the same year he made it, and it was fucking E.T. That is the literal inception of his hatred, is this time period.
That's awesome because it made John Carpenter put out a ton of awesome stuff. One of my favorite things, horror movies he did, I don't know if people have seen it and it flies kind of low on the radar, is Body Bags.
Oh man,
oh,
that's an old cult classic.
Yeah, that's an awesome, because I like horror movies that are small and knock the punch. And that's a perfect one because it takes 3 different horror ideas. I think it's 3 or 4. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, it's one of those trilogy anthology movies.
But they're all really done awesome short horrors. Like you I don't know if you
short horrors.
Yeah, shut your mouth. I don't know if you've ever watched, like I watch with my kids all the time. I watch the Alter series on YouTube. So Alter does nothing but these small little 15-minute horror flicks. I don't know if you've ever caught them. They're amazing, dude. They're hella good.
I need to check them out. I've never heard of them.
Yeah, so if you jump on YouTube and type in Alter, it's spelled like you would think. It's amazing 15-minute horror movies, but they're really, really well done. They're small little independent films that people make.
Yeah, they're really good too. A lot of storyline in the short amount of time, and it gets to the point, but it also
punches hard.
Yeah,
like,
and it has
really
good, but it has good story. It doesn't just rush through things, which is crazy.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, I mean, even Stephen King proved this. I mean, like horror short stories can deliver exactly what you need, even like a social commentary within just like a few pages. Yeah, he's known for his novels that are like way too long, and the endings are usually shit. But his short story writing is fantastic, and a lot of horror is like that. So I mean, it makes sense that short films would work the same way.
Yeah, I think Alter has they have like 4 years of movies. In each movie, they put like a couple movies out a month. So you could sit down and make a whole weekend, a couple weekends of just watching these all day long. And they're good because they're so different. Every one is 100% different. So you don't ever have these things where you feel like you've watched it before. It's always some kind of, you don't know if there's going to be a twist. You don't know all the complex mechanisms because they're so diverse. It's like a giant decentralized horror movie, analog. It's pretty awesome, man. You'd have a fun day of just spending the time. Do you have YouTube on your TV at all, like an app built into it?
Yeah.
That's a good day to sit with your old lady and just watch nonstop horror movies, if she likes them.
She does.
That's perfect.
She does, so
they're both horrors.
Yeah, like usually like once or twice a week, I'll sit down with my kids and we'll watch one at night, watch 1 or 2, because they have so many now. It's because they've been doing it for years.
They're gripping, if you will, because the kids are like, their eyeballs are glued. My son's reacting like, ooh, the usual.
Oh, yeah,
so.
losing his mind, covering his face. Go there and yank the blanket off his head. You're going to watch it.